Well, thank you. Thank you. And I guess I'm competition. So, and I think afternoon sessions are always about generating energy. And I think the competition is just what you heard. But let me say before we start on my presentation, I want to ask for a warm round of applause for Ling, Dan, and Fiona for setting up the stage for a wonderful event here today. You know, and Justin, who was sitting at my table, I want to also, again, thank you. You unlocked something I did not know, did not realize. So, round of applause for all the speakers, particularly Justin and Sanjeev before us. Thank you. So my name is Peter van Deventer, or in English, Peter van Deventer. It sort of, happens to your name somehow. I am representing here today the King's Commissioner of the Netherlands, who was invited by Fiona just last month. Maybe you should come to California again in a month's time. Well, being also part of the Newsom administration, I know how difficult it is for elected officials to go twice, in a month. So that's why they send me on stage here today. But that gives me the opportunity to explain a little bit about why I think that what Mexico is trying to do is sort of like what the Dutch have been trying to do over the past 15 years, and they call it coast to coast. So let me start with my presentation. So everything, as you know, always starts with why. Why should we have a collaboration, across the globe that is like 10,000 kilometers away from one another? Well, if you look at the issues at hand, whether you are in the Bay Area or whether you are in Europe, air pollution is a real thing. It's not going to go away. In certain parts of the world, it's actually getting worse. And climate change is also a real thing. Those of you who were here during the pandemic, I was here during the pandemic, stuck. I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't go see my kids in Holland. But we all remember this. But probably what you don't know is that the province of North Holland, so this is where the King's Commissioner is residing, near Amsterdam, had the exact same thing. The world was on fire just 2 years ago. And we're stuck in traffic, it seems, all the time. This is not only in California, in LA, it's not only in Amsterdam when you try to get into the city in the morning. It's in every place in the world, and it seems only to get worse. And many of these issues, and arguably the last one is quite clear. We're stuck in traffic, we're polluting, we're contributing to climate change because of our habits to get into our cars. Even, electric cars are not entirely exempt because they also need to be produced. Anyway, so there's a whole lot of things are needed. And that raises the question then what to do. This was the question we had 15 years ago. So we designed a program. We said, smart public policy is always about connecting leaders who run into the same issues. In 2008, California and the Netherlands were running into the same issues. What do we need to do? Well, how can we learn? How can we maybe attune our policies or create business opportunities or just share knowledge? So we created a program called Coast to Coast, and not really knowing that I would be here on stage 15 years later, but I am. So a few things happened. We signed many lateral agreements, and I think that's what Mexico also is doing with our state. Sign up, be together, and be realistic, not only for the moment, but for years after. Create jobs, create new innovations, do exchanges, have young people be involved. And we created also a foundation. We felt a need to do this more often and have a sustainable growth path. But the question really is not only what to do, but how then to do this. What does it look like? How do you create business? How do you create policy alignment? How do you make, how do you tackle these issues really? Well, you need to do a few things, and this is my advice to you. Okay, so you can write them down or you can ask for my presentation. This is what I've experienced over the past 15 years that really works. You have to bring the leaders in the room, and it has to be fun. This is former Secretary Rodriguez, and we created environments that was fun for them to engage, sitting here next to his counterpart from the Netherlands and from China and from Norway. You sign bilateral agreements that really matter, that have an impact both here as well as, in this case, in Europe. And you are setting the scene at stages that really matter, where the whole world is watching, at the United Nations. You bring unexpected partners together, China, California, and the Netherlands, to create a policy lab on how to, sustain these measures. You have to have, get-togethers, and this is what we created at the consulate. It's a beautiful venue, and all the consulates in the world have such venues, so they could easily copy this. And then you bring in, royalty. The Dutch have, we're a kingdom officially, although the king doesn't have a lot of power. He does bring weight into the room. And his brother, Prince Constantine, is always there when the CES, for instance, is there. And there's a lot of folks from the Netherlands. Make sure that everybody, feels that those who bring that extra weight onto the scale, such as a prince, that it really matters. He's not only there to put his, thumb on the scale, but also to speak and to engage and to connect. Get your royals or get your presidencies to do this with you. We got to do it. And then create, workshops, smart workshops with folks here in California. We did, I wouldn't say hundreds, but tens of them. And you have to have exciting events on either side of the ocean. This is in Amsterdam, 1,200 folks just before the pandemic on smart charging. I think maybe my battery went dead, so, oh, there we go. And create living labs. So, if you want to exchange knowledge, you have to invest. So this is a living lab we created at UC Davis. And then you get happy foundation members who really also spread the word and make it happen. And with some of you already, I shared this morning, governments can never spend their way out of all of this. We need all of you. We need the smart ingenuity from universities. We need the companies. We need the investors. We need the connectors. We need all of you to make this happen. So the foundation is made up of all that, and they're happy, apparently. And then, last but not least, and some say this was a fine moment for Peter van Deventer. This is when he got to connect Governor Brown in his last year with Mark Rutte, who's the Prime Minister of the Netherlands. They basically said, yes, let's make this happen. Let's make this connection work. And since that time, things have accelerated. We were able to bring Tesla to the Netherlands. We were able to bring important Dutch companies like TomTom to the United States, to California. We were able to bring Zero Motorcycles, a California company, to the Netherlands. We were able to bring Technolution to California. So, two-way street. Very exciting, creating jobs, but also creating new ideas and solutions to existing problems for energy, for transportation. However, there's always a however. As time goes on, you run into new issues. So what I'm going to give you now is like the state of play as it is now. What I described to you is how we did it, but what's happening now? Well, we found new things. So we're finding that air pollution contributes also to, COVID being accelerated. There is climate change being, made part of the plan, the governmental plan, the state plan, the plans of the EU. So it's more formal now. This is also an opportunity. The Europeans have created a Green Deal, which goes really far. We'll see what comes out of the election next month, and what will still be left of the Green Deal. But so much has already trickled down into individual member states' economy. So companies like, for instance, Sparks, and so many of the other companies that I've been speaking with, if you want to do business with the EU, this is a very good time because of the Green Deal. The European Union create, for instance, a commitment from 100 plus cities in the EU that have committed themselves to be net zero city in well, just a little over 5 years from now. Unbelievable. I was in the room when the Director General came back from a meeting, and he was kind of angry, and he was pissed, sorry for the word. And I said, you look like you're angry. He said, yeah, he said, I just came off a call with 270 cities who are pissed at me because they didn't make the cut to the 100. So there were 370 cities in Europe who committed themselves to be net zero cities, and they only had room for 100 in the program. So there's 270, going rogue and doing their own thing, but still contributing to what the European believes is absolutely necessary. Those lessons, I think, we can learn from one another. And in the meantime, both California and the EU decided something that maybe you realize or not. Maybe you are driving a combustion vehicle. Well, I would say hold on to it, because by 2035, you'll not be able to buy one anymore here in the state of California, a few other states, and in the European Union. In some states, it will actually end by next year. So in Norway, no more combustion cars next year, and then in 5 years, no more combustion cars in the Netherlands. And 2035, nowhere in the European Union. So then battery manufacturers better get ready for those, cars coming on the road. Hydrogen also has a place, but maybe more so the Europeans think, at least in heavy duty. So what do we do now with all these opportunities and changes? Well, I think it is not only about creating the jobs, because both in the European Union as well as in California and many other places in the US, actually the unemployment number is low. And looking at the demographics, they will probably stay a little lower, on the low side. What needs to happen is the quality of the jobs. So kind of like, the jobs I think that Sanjeev is creating can help communities empower themselves. And there's so many other wonderful examples across the globe. Social equity is, I think, an increasingly important aspect that we need to take care of. If you see, for instance, what's happening in Europe in how politics is being created and how people are voting because they're angry, they're upset, they are not sure about will they be able to make the next iteration for their family. So it is about making sure that underserved communities are part of this change. It cannot just us be in the room. We're probably all well off, but there's a lot of folks who don't. And this is going to be increasingly important, not only here in California, but also in the European Union. So if you want to do business with the European Union, you got to understand that there's cracks in the pavement everywhere, and the European Union and my country, not separated from that. It used to be maybe heaven on earth, but there's cracks in the pavement. You have to pay attention to making sure that your solutions address the larger issues in society, which includes those who are underserved or who are challenged in their opportunity to grow. And like I said, we cannot spend the way out of this alone. So we need more than ever. We need these kinds of gatherings. And great examples already mentioned. So now we go more into the nitty-gritty detail of what I see is happening or needs to happen fundamentally in transportation. Coast to coast is more than just transportation, but I wanted to close this off because this is really what we've seen and that I'd like to also see happen in California. So electric vehicles can only be successfully deployed if there's enough charging infrastructure. Charging infrastructure is expensive, and then going and get your electrons in the car is even more expensive. For cities to start implementing those chargers is very costly. The state is now supplementing that, but in a few years that's probably going to stop. So what is very important, you need to radicalize clean mobility. You need to start using proven methods that the Dutch have done, which is concession method. The concession method has resulted into the price of a charger coming down from 20,000 euros to 10,000 euros to 5 to 2 to 1. Right now, the total concession, the concession that was won by Total Energies around the Amsterdam metropolitan region resulted into a negative cost. So they actually paid the city of Amsterdam to have these chargers installed. This is possible through the concession model. This is a radicalization. So it's not just giving away money, no, it's making sure that we implement smart procurement solutions. And you need regional collaboration. So where maybe the state, even the state that I work for, you know, as an appointee by Governor Newsom, you know, the state is obviously important. But in the radicalization to create clean mobility solutions, it's about you and local solutions. So get out, you know, and create, you know, regional collaboration or maybe in cities. They will drive the market. They will absolutely be needed in this opportunity. So what the way I advocate this at the governor's office is that I say, well, you know, it's good that we have all these policies, but now let's bring it to the folks who run the regions, who do the local stuff, because that's where it really is needed. And smart mobility. So smart mobility it's clean, but smart is also having more public transportation. Maybe sometimes walk or bike, or you know, have smart ways of sharing data and information. Well, we need to radicalize that as well. What governments have failed to do, in my opinion, is to make smart alliances. So for instance, the province of North Holland already 10 years ago decided to buddy up with Nissan Research and Development Center, which is right here in Silicon Valley. And because they did this, and this was unique at the time, to sign, you know, an MOU with a company, there's now autonomous transportation around Amsterdam. There's all kinds of models being tested. This is the way forward. And then finally, we have to prioritize what I would call equitable mobility, which is making sure that we include those communities who have no voice. The program, the Coast to Coast program, has also created alliances bringing in young students from Europe. And these students are like a voice for, you know, for young kids here in California. By connecting those, we see, you know, we hopefully are able to prioritize equitable mobility by putting, by making it clear that by bringing these young people together, they understand something needs to change in the behavior of how transportation is being shaped. Finally, then, how to do that? And then now we get into the fine detail. Well, in a day and age where we have less physical meetings, webinars, and keen webinars are absolutely a key, in addition to meeting in person. Engage young talent. And I was speaking to my new Dutch friend, Dolph, right? You'll be speaking later. The importance of having pathways to exchange young people from Europe, young people from California. We've done this now for 15 years, and it really shows off. So the people that graduated, let's say, from this coast-to-coast exchange 15 years ago, they're doing really well. They've become influencers, and this is what we will continue to do. And then finally, we have to bring leaders together. So this is just last year, all kinds of delegations, bringing them to Sacramento and having exciting arrangements and business and opportunities to collaborate. So my final closure is, it's all about capturing hearts and minds of young people and of ourselves and all the different sectors by having, tangible results, by making tangible alliances, agreements, but create business opportunities. This, I think, is why Coast to Coast has become very successful, and which I hope will be copied by Mexico, by the Pan-Asia areas. So anything that can be copied, please go ahead. I'd like to say thank you again for the opportunity, and have a wonderful day. Thanks.